My name is Lukasz Palka and I'm a street photographer. So I came to Tokyo in 2007 as an exchange student and I had a really good time. So I'm back to America. I graduated from college and I came back here again in 2008, expecting I would live here a year or two, and it's been almost 16.
What is your general approach to street photography and what we're going to be doing tonight?
Yeah, that's a deep question, the general approach. Well, it might sound a little cheesy, but I like to think these days that I have a mindful approach, meaning I'm pretty accepting of anything that we encounter, or I encounter. I don't try to have like a preconceived notion about what I'm going to see or shoot. You know, some photographers I feel like, oh, I only do this or I only do that, you know what I mean? Like particular things. I just go out, I don't know what's going to be there, and whatever I see, if I like it, I'm going to shoot it.
And where are we?
Oh, this is Shinjuku, but specifically Kabukicho.
Do you like it here?
I love it here. It's my favorite district.
Do you really love it here?
I'm not sarcastic, it's my favorite area to shoot. What's a good thing or what interests me, right? I think a big inspiration for me, photographically or visually, is cinema, actually. Something interests me here. So this is, we can come back already. This is what I was telling you before we even started. Like, I shoot constantly and like everything is interesting. But in general, as I try to compose this scene, I'll say, I like to shoot things that are cinematic because I take a lot of inspiration from cinema, from movies. And so what appears cinematic to me here, for example, is just this light. We have these two signs, right? And then you see we have people going by and like this guy with the umbrella and the graffiti there, you know, the textures. Here's another guy. That guy's cool. So basically, I'm attracted to the things that look cinematic, and then that's a big can of worms right there. Well, what even looks cinematic? To me, the things that look cinematic have a mood, a strong mood. Because when you watch a movie, all these good movies, right? They have good moods, or like when I say good, I mean like well-defined moods. So you kind of know what to feel when you're watching that film, right? And the cinematography often sympathizes with that, right? If the story dictates or for the character to be sad or whatever, then the cinematography will help you feel that emotion, right? So that's what I mean by mood. And so I like scenes that evoke some kind of a mood. But then, of course, there are some secondary technical considerations, right? You can have a nice mood. You just have to think about how you're going to frame it. Like if there's no good framing, you might feel the mood, but then I'll give up. I might still take a photo, but I'll give up quickly. Like, oh, this is not working. In terms of framing, actually, this is kind of cool. There's a reflection of this neon there. So like I already know like this is not going to work probably, but I wanted to try it anyway. So I have the reflection there, and then maybe I could get somebody's like feet splashing through this. I do like the colors. Yeah, probably no one's going to walk through it. Oh, that guy? No, he didn't go that way. I need someone to go this way. And this is a good example of what I'm talking about. Like, I kind of like the mood here. I like that I'm shooting the reflection of the neon in the puddle. The colors are cool. You know, neon in a puddle, automatically you think like cyberpunk, Blade Runner, right? It's cinematic, right? But it's just that didn't work. There was no person there. There was no like real subject or moment. So fundamentally, you do need a moment in street photography, right? And even if sometimes there's no people, so I guess you can get away without it. But often you want a person and you want them to kind of produce a moment for you. And what that moment is, we say decisive moment often, right? The term coined by, I don't know, Henry Cartier-Bresson, like ages ago, I guess. Whoever coined it. So I have two cameras. I have polar opposite cameras on the spectrum of size and capability. Well, maybe not capability, well, whatever. The point is I have a Nikon Z9 and I have a Ricoh GR3 and 3X, these two cameras, which are less capable at night, but still very, very capable given their size. But obviously this is like crazy good at night, and I often shoot at night. But the size difference is huge. And then on the GR3, it's a 28mm equivalent lens, and then the GR3X, it's a 40mm equivalent lens. And on my Nikon, I like to use a 28mm lens, which this is, or sometimes a 40mm lens. So those are my go-to.
You're the only person I've ever seen using that lens, and I love this lens. This is one of my favorites.
Yeah. When I switched from the F system, you know, the old not old, but you know what I mean, the Nikon DSLRs, I was using a lot of F lenses, of course, and then I sold all of them except for this one and one other one, a Voigtlander 40mm, which I really love, little manual focus lens. But I don't use that one that often because I like to use the AF. I mean, this AF system is incredible. I am shooting wide open because, I have the 1.4 lens, might as well, and then also I do want to collect the light. But the real reason I'm doing wide open is because of the next thing, which is I shoot at a 500th of a second, usually, which is needed because I sometimes like to just like walk in, as I'm walking along and I see somebody interesting, I just like to shoot that. Just bam, right there. Oh, right. Oh, かっこいいかっこいい。でもタバコ吸って。タバコかっこいい。ああ、いいね。煙して。 Nice, man. Nice. ありがとう。
かっこいい。
ね、かっこいいね。
ありがとう。
そうかっこいいよ。
ありがとう。でも一番。また、that was fun. But like, creatively, that was a bit of a failure on my part. I'm not happy with that because they posed for me in the end, and that was my biggest fear. There was not that they would be annoyed that I'm taking the picture. My biggest fear was that they're gonna notice me and they're gonna chat with me, and then it's not gonna be natural. Because what I wanted him to do is take another puff of his cigarette and blow the smoke out the way he did the first time, before I got a chance to shoot it. He just like puffed it out into the air in a really cool way, and the light caught it, and it was very cinematic. Right? Oh, here's a nice little scene. Might wait for that guy to come back to his post in the window. Ooh, that's nice.
How is photographing in Japan? Are there any customs that maybe people coming here for the first time should be aware of, or?
I would say, there's no real customs, but of course, I mean, the thing people always say is that, like, Japanese people are very private and they like to be photographed or whatever. That's not actually my experience, at least not in these areas. But I will say this, if you're going to photograph people, I think you should have a very honest and obvious approach, like I do, like I just kind of demonstrated. Like, I'm not saying that I'm always like shouting to people like, hey, I'm taking your photo, is that okay? Because that's kind of stupid, right? But I'm not hiding what I'm doing, I'm just doing it. And if people see me, and then they will, they have a, like, if they don't see me, they don't see me, oh well, right? But if they do see me, there's an opportunity for them to say, hey, what are you doing? Don't do that, or whatever, or like those guys. I mean, more often than not, they don't say, hey, don't do that. They'll pose or smile or do something funny. At least in the areas where I tend to shoot and hang out. There's a restaurant here, and so I stopped coming in here recently because I don't want to piss them off. Like, if we go that way.
Yeah.
See, this is their kitchen, their back area, and so it's quite busy. We're kind of quiet right now. So I kind of don't come in here as much, but I do usually hang out over there or on the next street. Let's go this way. You could show this on camera though, it's a pretty cool space. So I've shot in here a million times, but over time I realized these people are annoyed by my presence, so I'll see you in a second. So there are like areas where I could feel that maybe I've overstayed my welcome and I don't go shoot there anymore, or once in a blue moon, so that I don't annoy people, because that's not what I'm out here for, right? But these days I gravitate towards this. I tend to try to shoot stuff here when I come here sometimes, and I'm here a lot because I bring people here on my workshops. So like I bring people here almost every night. Like the last 2 weeks is like every night, for example, because it's March, it's very busy.
And you can find those workshops in the link in the description.
Exactly.
And also your book. Do you want to talk a little bit about your book?
Oh yeah, right, great. Thanks for the reminder. Hold on, let me just get a shot of this dude there with the umbrella in the distance. This is where a 28 is a little wide, but we'll make it work. So yeah, the book. So I published a book recently called Tokyo Unseen, and it's about this. It's full of photos from Tokyo, but not just at night. It's a fair mix of night and day, but it's all street photography. Even though I do other kinds of photography as well. I mean, I shoot like urban landscapes, cityscapes, all kinds of stuff, but the book is purely street photography, 200 pages of street stuff, candid moments and whatnot. And it spans about a decade. I think the earliest photo is from 2010. And the most recent one, I shot photos like literally months before the book was like the deadline of the layout, which was in early 2023. So photos throughout that whole era. But most of them are from like the teens, 16, 17, 18, those years.
How do you feel about making long-term projects like that?
The thing is, for me, it wasn't a long-term project. I mean, I guess it kind of was, but it wasn't. So the point is, it wasn't a conscious long-term project. It was just me shooting for 10 years, for a decade, right? Or more. And I'm still shooting the same kind of stuff now. I mean, it's evolving, and kind of the paths are meandering in different directions and whatever, my creative paths. But ultimately, I am just continuing the same process, right? Going out, looking around, shooting stuff that interests me. So what was good is that a publisher approached me actually, and they said, hey, we want you to make this book. And this is they defined it. It says it's going to be street photography, so don't put other stuff in there. And so then it kind of like, I was able to like, it's a weird analogy just chopped in my head, but when you make sausages, there's sausage links, you're filling the sausage with the sausage meat, whatever, and then you tie one off and that's your sausage link. That's what the book is, okay? It's like years and years of shooting, and then I had to just tie that link off and be like, that's it. I resigned myself to this idea that I'm just going to continue to shoot probably forever. And it's just like, it's like a way of life for me. It's just part of my life,
So no plans for retirement?
No, not at this time.
That's such a bizarre, like, the concept of retirement from like
a creative pursuit, right?
Yeah.
It's become so ingrained in like my personal identity, like who I am, that to put down the camera and never take pictures again or move on to something different feels weird to me, you know? So is it kind of like a Sisyphean task, right? Is it like rolling the boulder up the hill? And it keeps, kind of. Every night I come out here, I'm doing similar stuff, and you know, and again with the workshops, they force me, because it's what I do, right? It's my career, to bring people out here, and I want to show them these cool spots, so inevitably I end up in the same cool spots. But I'm never bored because, it's, as I just said, it's always different. Every night something new happens, and I still get new photos, and you know, I'm always captivated by something. And yeah, it just never ends. Kind of like my rambling. So I think this might be a cool scene. So I would love to see him again, see my Sam. But that's just an example of like people I've talked to, and you know, kind of friends that I've made on the street. Let's let these guys out. Oh. All right, nobody else is coming. They were not the coolest looking people, but I like that scene. It was an interesting scene. So that was an example. Like I did that, they came out, they made eye contact with me, I smiled at them, they smiled at me, and like it was obvious what I was doing, right? I wasn't trying to like take a photo and run away.
What are the basic words someone coming to Japan for the first time should learn?
The basic words is I mean, you know, of course, for photography, let's keep it to photography. Because the basic words, of course, are sumimasen is excuse me, arigato is thank you, onegaishimasu is please, right? Kore kudasai is this please, which is like, you know, at the restaurant. But for photography, you could say, shashin ii desu ka, which means like, can I take your picture? Okay, and now this is a great scene, look at that, wow. That was awesome because of the light. Again, the light, the cinematic light. Did the camera focus? It's tough. Oh yeah, it totally did. Nice. It's a great camera, but sometimes it misses focus, you know. Let's be real, there's no perfect camera out there. Anyway, so shashin ii desu ka, and then, but more importantly, I would say, because I rarely ask people for photos, you take a photo, and then you gotta say, kakkoi, which means you look cool. And that works 99% of the time. Because then people are like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, that's why you took my photo, because I look cool. Gotcha. I like this guy sitting there, I'm gonna get a shot of him. Oh, he left.
Where'd he go?
No,
he knew.
He just walked away. He's right there. That's all right. That's street photography, and you miss way more than you get, you know. There's a cool little scene here. There's a little group of people, and like the car. I like when cars and people have to kind of squeeze through each other, like past each other. Because altogether it's just like, there's a kind of chaotic scene. And again, I've mentioned Blade Runner before. I mean, that's very obviously a huge inspiration for me and many other people who do what I do. And like, there's some scenes in that movie where it's like they're on the street and it's just crowded and there's cars. It's like everything's like kind of gridlocked. And I like to reproduce that in Tokyo here. Sometimes there are opportunities for that, where it gets just really tight.
Yeah. Who are your favorite photographers? Is there anyone that you curate your brain to look at often?
Yeah, very well said. Very well asked question. Yes, I curate my brain to, by far my favorite over the years has become Saul Leiter, because visually his photos are stunning, and then the way he approached it is, you know, very, very like abstract almost, right? Not in every photo. Sometimes he's more literal, but he tends to be abstract, and I like that abstract look. Yeah, and then also it's very, you know, conducive for Tokyo because you can achieve that kind of stuff. Like it makes sense to shoot like that in this environment, right? So it resonated with me right away. In fact, the way I discovered Saul Leiter is I took a photo that I don't think was particularly good, but according to somebody on social media, when I posted this on DeviantArt, that's how old I am, in like 2010 or whatever, some guy was like, hey, this is like kind of like Saul Leiter, you should check out Saul Leiter's work. I was like, who's that? And I looked him up, I was like, wow, that's amazing. So that's how I got into it. And so I was already like, I guess, leaning in that direction. So when I saw his work, it just blew my mind. He was instantly like the master, you know, the master to aspire to. But I've had, you can see that girl through the umbrella, like, there's like a silhouette, but it's only because these red lights were here. So let's wait. Maybe someone else will come with an umbrella, and then but the car is gonna leave. Okay, never mind. That's how it is.
I feel like so many of us struggle with very, very heavy imposter syndrome, that I am not good enough, that why should I be allowed to take pictures?
Believe me, I hide it very well. Like, there's not a day where I'm not like, what the hell am I doing here? Why does anyone even follow me? Or why am I producing this stuff? I'm clearly just a hack. But you know, I think you do like a couple of years of that, and it's still there. The demon is still there, but you're just sort of like, yeah, just whatever. I enjoy it too much.
You've come to peace with it.
I've come to peace with it. Yeah, I just enjoy it too much, and there's no point to like self-loathe. because why? Like there's no benefit. Like and I realized that I'm never going to break out of it. So I just stopped thinking about it. So I guess, yeah, come to peace with it is a simple way to say that, yeah.
What advice do you have for a younger photographer or somebody maybe just deciding that this might be something that they want to do?
I mean, it's a bit cliche, but you got to go out there and shoot. That's the number one thing, you know. Don't overthink all the noise that's out there online, all the, you know, the YouTubers. No offense, I'm a YouTuber too, right? That was great. I love the way they were interacting together, these girls. You know, I also have a YouTube channel and I also talk about stuff and I tell people, like, I recommend things to do, you know, do this, you learn like this, try to shoot this way. But ultimately, you know, get that information from other people, but ultimately you just got to go out there and do it, and you do it however you do it, whatever feels comfortable. Don't feel like you must follow someone's prescription or rules. That's I think that was the biggest thing that held me back. So I went out there and I heard all these rules, like don't shoot people from behind, that's a boring photo. Some of my best photos are people from behind, you know? But people would tell me sometimes like, this is a shitty photo. And it's like, well, you say that, but I don't think it is. And so listen to that voice. When you think to yourself as an up-and-coming young photographer and you think, I don't think this is a bad photo, I think it's a good photo, even if there's external things that make you doubt that, ignore those things and listen to yourself. That's I think the biggest advice I can give.
Where can people go to find out more about you?
Of course, there's my website, lkazphoto.com. There's iExplore, which is my workshops, EYEXPLORE.com. You're putting these links in this, right? I don't need to spell them out. And then I have an Instagram, which is the same handle as my homepage. And there's also a blog, which is, I think, underviewed. This is actually where I post most of my work, but nobody looks at the blog. It's tokyostreet.photo. And I post there every day, multiple times a day, many photos with each post. And it's where it's like my release valve. So all this stuff that I shoot will eventually, or at least the stuff that I think is worth posting, ends up on this blog. Whereas like on Instagram, my homepage, it's not everything. So if you really want to see what I'm doing, like stream of consciousness style, check out the blog. Right? And then of course YouTube, which is also called iExplore, same as the workshop website, EYEXPLORE.
Thank you so much, dude.
Yeah.
This was amazing.
My pleasure.
I'm